And now, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce a globally respected lawyer, security consultant, and strategist. Dr. Charles Omole advises businesses and governments across Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, having worked in over 40 countries to help nations reform the security services. As a constitutional law scholar, he combines a rigorous academic and research pedigree with practical industry experience in a compelling proposition. Dr. Omole is a global expert in law enforcement jurisprudence and organizational transformation, with a particular focus on good governance in national security operations, security sector reforms, excellence in policing, and leadership development. Alongside his international scholarship, Dr. Omole also serves as a judge in the London Circuit of the British Judiciary, presiding in both the Crown and the Family Courts. Importantly, Dr. Charles Omole has spoken at the Platform Nigeria, delivering powerful insights at the 2018 edition on unlocking our country's potential, as well as in 2022. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly put your hands together as we welcome Dr. Charles Omole.
Thank you very much. I'm a bit of old school. I brought the laptop, I also printed it. Just in case, pleasure to be here again this morning. This morning, I would like to start by giving a couple of 2 or 3 illustrations. Those illustrations will anchor the rest of what I'm going to say this morning. The first illustration is there's a driver that wanted to go to Lagos. The assignment is to come to Lagos and is currently based in Abuja. So he decided to drive towards Kaduna. When he got to Kaduna, he said, no. The owner said, no, the driver is tired. Let's change the driver. So they brought another driver. They got to Kano. When they got to Kano, they said, we need the best driver in the world to come and drive the car. So they brought a very good driver. They got to Sokoto. Are they going to get to Lagos? You see, they keep changing driver, but they are still heading in the wrong direction. That illustrates our security challenge in Nigeria. We are changing the drivers, we are changing the personnel, but we are heading in the wrong direction. That's why I feel we need to rethink our concept of security as a nation, and I have some ideas about how to do that this morning. I'm not going to spend time telling you about problems. I'd rather speak to the solutions. And in addressing the solutions, you will identify the problems I'm dealing with. The second illustration, if somebody is diagnosed with stage 1 cancer, usually the best practice is you give them tried and tested medication that's been approved by the regulators in whichever country. But if that patient becomes terminal, say stage 4, and has been given, say, 3 months to live, one thing you will notice is at that stage, experimental treatment are allowed. Because it's like, look, what has he got to lose? So even treatment that have not yet been fully certified were allowed. Just like, for example, during the COVID, treatment we were all given everything was fast-tracked. So Nigerian security situation is now become existential. So we are in that terminal stage. which means in rethinking our solutions to security, we have to abandon what I call conventional solution. It's time for us to invent solutions that can work. We have nothing to lose again. The third and final illustration, before I go to my main points today, is the best pilots in the world have some strengths and they also have some weaknesses. By that, when you are sitting in that cockpit, 50,000 miles above the ground, it doesn't matter how good you are as a pilot. You are limited by being dependent on your instruments, by the control tower, and whatever numbers come in front of you. What do I mean by that? That pilot is like the president of any country, but since we are talking about Nigeria, it's like the president of Nigeria. Is limited by instrumentation of the facts presented to him. What if those numbers are wrong? What if those data are wrong? You are going to make the wrong decision. The Nigerian state inherited a security doctrine forged in war, coups, and counterinsurgency. The challenge before us is to evolve from protecting territory alone to start protecting people. Because insecurity often takes root long before the first shot is fired. Nigeria's security challenges demand a new mindset, not a repetition of old assumptions. For far too long, we have relied on familiar structures, familiar responses, and familiar explanations, even when the results have shown that they are no longer sufficient. I think Nigeria is the only country that I know so far, when it comes to security, that feels doing the same thing that has not worked will eventually work. If we are serious about solving insecurity in Nigeria, we must be willing to question the status quo. We cannot continue to do what has not worked and expect a different outcome. This is the purpose of this presentation. We must move from security as a force to security as governance. We need a new mindset entirely to rejig this. We have so far defined security in a very narrow fashion. To many ministries, acts all over the country, as if insecurity is the sole responsibility of the police and the armed forces. But what they do not understand is this: bad land policy can create conflict. Bad education policy can produce and recruit extremism. Bad urban planning can create ungoverned spaces. Bad economic policy can turn desperation into violence. Bad justice delivery can turn victims into vigilantes. So security is the duty of every department of government. But that has not been the case in our country. So what can we do? Number one, a few mindset reforms that I think we need. Make security the job of the whole government. What do I mean by that? I remember in 2004, then I was still based in England. No, 2003. Arsenal, for those of you Arsenal supporters, were planning to build a new stadium at that time. So they applied to the Islington Council, the council then. I happened to be on the council management at that time. And the first thing I remembered we did was for them to do what we call security impact assessment of locating the stadium where it is now and of increasing the number in terms of its capacity. That security impact assessment showed a few things. I'm not going into details about it, but one thing it showed is that the train stations around the new stadium needed to be upgraded. Otherwise, it will not be able to handle the number of people that will be exiting the stadium. There will be stampede, people will die. So the first thing Arsenal was asked to do was upgrade all those train stations. One of them in particular, called the Holloway Road Station, had only one small escalator. Small elevator. It didn't even have escalator. There was only stairs. All these things was executed before even the stadium was built. Something tells me if that was in Nigeria, they will have finished building the stadium, there will be stampede, 50 people will die, and government will start giving condolence messages. A lot of our security challenges are foreseeable. And the easy way for government to make this the duty of all government is to make sure there is security impact assessment of every major government policy and projects. In other words, a new law is not needed. The president can wake up tomorrow and give an executive order that no new project will be accepted or signed off by the Federal Executive Council without him seeing the security impact of that particular policy. That will make a lot of things that we react to be more proactive in dealing with them. Very good example. I gave an interview last year in which I said there are 5 major security impacts I have seen in the new tax regime that the government introduced this year. I gave only one of them. I didn't give you the other 4. I have not seen any sign that government have done any impact assessment, security impact assessment of those tax policies. And mark my word, I'm saying it now, by January next year, you will begin to see those security impact. Because right now, because the enforcement of the new tax regime has been light touch, Nigerians are not reacting yet. Wait till January. That's when you begin to see. And since I've given one, I might as well give you free of charge here as well. I said one consequence of the new tax policy is that a lot more people will be holding cash at home, not in their bank accounts. And if a lot more people holding cash at home, what does that mean? More robberies. So what have we put in place to preempt that impact? Are you getting what I'm saying now? Every policy of government, every major project of government have security impact. Take the new coastal road. Whether you are for it or against it is irrelevant. But it does have significant security impact. When you are in downtown Lagos, you are being robbed. Is it when you're on a road that you are alone for 4 hours that you won't be robbed? How have security been embedded in the construction of that road? Because these are the things that you do from scratch. I can go on and begin to give examples of things that are foreseeable that we neglect as a nation, and then we just begin to react when those foreseeable consequences begin to manifest. So the first thing is, security has to be seen as the job of every department of government, not just of security services. Number 2, create a national security delivery dashboard or security data grid. What do I mean by that? Many of the data that we need to use for security purposes in Nigeria are too fragmented. As many of you know, there are several government and private entities that collect your biometrics. From telephone, to passport, to driver's license, to bank account, I mean, name it. And these data don't talk to each other. So what does that mean? It means we do not have a bird's eye view of what's going on. Let me give you a typical example. One of the consequences of 9/11 in the United States was the creation of the Department of Homeland Security. One of the reasoning behind it was the fact that all those terrorists existed in one security database or the other in the US, but they were not talking to each other. So what Department of Homeland Security did was came as an umbrella on top of all the security outfits in the US. A typical example: your name is Muhammad or Musa. You go to New York to buy 20 kilograms of fertilizer. As far as New York law enforcement is concerned, 20 kilograms, a farmer can need that for his farm. But you now went to 10 other states and bought 20 kilograms in each state. Each of the state law enforcement know is that you bought 20 kilograms and it's not an alarm. But within 48 hours, Homeland Security will see that, why is this same Musa buying 20 kilograms across 10 states? That is flagged as a security incident. That's what it means to have a national data grid. You are joining the dots. In Nigeria, you can leave prison in Sokoto tomorrow, and day after tomorrow join the Nigeria police force. They ain't gonna know. Because you are supposed to self-certify that you are not a prisoner, or you are not an ex-convict. At a particular time, I won't tell you which time, I spoke with the police commissioner in charge of here in Lagos in terms of our fingerprint database. By rule, he said that every prisoner that goes into the prison in the country, their fingerprints are supposed to be taken and sent to him to store. I said, so what's the problem? He said he has not received anything in 6 months. Does that mean there were no prisoners in 6 months in Nigeria? So that just tells you how loose we are with key data that will enhance our security. So we need to begin to join the dots. Number 3, establish state police. Now, this is an interesting one about the state police. I must confess, for those of you who have listened to me in the last 20 years, you find that eventually I became a convert to state police. I had my serious reluctance about it. Part of it was, in 1952, the Action Group won the election in the Western region. The Minister for Local Government Affairs at that time was one Honorable Obafemi Awolowo. So he embarked on a tour of different local governments. And one of the things he saw as he was going from local government to local government was what we call the local government police at that time. It was disaster, absolute disaster. You know, the standards were low. Police were used to harass people, local politicians. It was even worse in the north, because in the north we had what we call the local native police. In fact, in 1960, the head of the northern local native police was one Malam Adobayero, who a few years later became the emir. He showed you the control the local politicians and local chiefs had on the local police. So all that fear clearly will make a lot of people to think we shouldn't go the route of state police. But over the years, through working with them, I've come to the conclusion that the Nigerian police force, as currently, but no, don't let me say currently, because that might think I'm talking to the current IG. No, it's my friend. So I'm talking of Nigerian police force as a whole. Their management team since 1999 have always been against state police. And I've concluded they are incapable of devolving policing. And therefore, the current administration need to be commended for their effort towards state police. I've seen the proposed bills passed yesterday by the House of Representatives. I have some issues with it, but like I was telling somebody last night, let's just do it. We'll perfect it as we go along. We should not allow the best to be the enemy of the good. So, state policing, I could spend a whole session just on that. Number 4, create security economic zones in conflict areas. create security economic zone in conflict areas. You see, the idea of creating economic zone is not new. We have free trade zones in certain parts of the country, for example. The whole idea, you see, what perpetuates insecurity is that it comes to a locality, decimates the economic life of that area, and then the military or police come, dislodge the bad guys, they move on, but the economy remains completely abandoned. And that acts as a recruitment sergeant for more of the insecurity. So we need to make areas affected by conflict to be more economically viable. We need to give people their options away from insecurity. And one of the ways to do that is to create security economic zone that will have things like, tax-free, industrial clusters, agro-processing hubs, enhanced security presence in those places, the fast-track courts if needed. They create incentive. Even government can, in those places, say for the first 2 years of a new business, we will pay half the salary of the staff. Just create incentive for economic viability in those areas. Because if the bad guys come, decimate an area, and then they move on, and then you leave that place completely abandoned, you're merely postponing coming back there to do more military activities. So creating security economic zones will help create viability for economic activities in areas affected by conflict. Number 5, replace reactive policing with proactive and predictive security. What do I mean by that? Those who are familiar with insecurity in Nigeria know very well that we are very good at reacting to things after the fact. And we do that every time. I remember when I was being interviewed after the Kaduna kidnapping a few months back, I told the journalist, I said there will be more kidnapping. I said it will also be more frequent as the election draws near. You don't need to be a prophet to know that will happen. But like everything else in Nigeria, we wait for it to happen. Now we are reacting to it. That's because our entire security posture is reactive, not proactive. I remember in 2021, then the House of Representatives put together a security summit, which by that time I was security advisor to the then House of Reps and the Speaker. I wrote a 150-page report with over 100 recommendations. Those recommendations were presented to President Buhari himself. I remember during that presentation, all the service chiefs were there. Guess what? 95% of those recommendations have not been implemented, even till today. So the question that bothers me sometimes, and that's a different pathological assessment that I don't want to be distracted with, and so why is it that when people get to government, they become omniscient? Suddenly they know everything. You can give them the best ideas in the world, their ears are blocked. Why? Part of the reason, I think, is because in Nigeria, the concept of constructive criticism is not recognized. Constructive criticism is seen as disloyalty. As a result, the leader therefore attracts only people who are yes men. People who will affirm the foolishness or whatever it is he's doing. Because the person who is saying yes sir knows that that's a wrong decision, but knows that if he recommends something different, it will be considered disloyal. Our leaders need to begin to be able to encourage dissenting voices. People who can give constructive criticism and give solutions. But the idea right now of just surrounding yourself with echo chambers is not helping the nation at all. Because for a nation as talented as Nigeria, the president can put a technical team together He said, I'm giving you 30 days, find solution to our insecurity. They will bring practical solutions out there. Why are we not using resources we have? You see, I talk to politicians all the time, and if you're a scientist, you would think maybe many of them have gone through cloning. Because all you hear is the same thing everywhere. I remember speaking to one recently. I said, but, oh boy, that was not what you said last year before your appointment. To say, hey, Doc, you know, we're in government now. So suddenly it's as though their brain takes a leave of absence. Why? Because he came in and is eager to conform with the prevailing voices. Constructive criticism needs to be encouraged. So replace reactive policing with proactive policing. A few things we need to do to encourage that. Number one, intelligence reform. Right now, there is no law in Nigeria that compels one security agency to share intelligence with another. They do so by best practice, but they don't have to. I've been in meetings where DSS have said, we are not sharing that with the police, we don't trust them. So, the president can bring out an executive order tomorrow to make it a sackable offense for you to fail to share intelligence. There are things we can do. And by the way, the reason why many of them do that is they want to take the glory. Things will work in this country if you don't care who takes the credit. But in Nigeria, everybody wants to. So we need to reform our intelligence sharing. Number two, we need a national early warning system. We don't have that at the moment. You see, a road on average could be seeing 2 motorbikes every day for 6 months. Suddenly, 70 motorbikes will be on that road one day, and we'll go on it for 3 hours, and we are not aware. That shouldn't be the case. There are technical and human solutions to creating an early warning system. And then thirdly, we need a rapid response team across all the geopolitical zones. What do I mean by that? I remember, for those of you who remember the Kuje prison breakout, part of the challenge of response at that time, which is exemplified by what's happened today, is that the police have to call different areas to mop up numbers to be able to respond. And by the time they put those numbers together, the bad guys were what? They were gone. We need to have a team where their job is, if they are not in operation, they are training. If they are not in operation, they are training. They are not doing normal policing work. Their job is to respond. Before the 3 hours, if you take them to ride back into the bush, they will have been intercepted. We need a national rapid response team, which we don't have at the moment. Number 6, follow the money of insecurity and go after the beneficiaries. Has it never occurred to you that we paid billions in ransom to kidnappers, and yet these guys still live in the bush? What does that tell you? They are not the real beneficiaries. The Inspector General of Police, Al-Khali, when he was Inspector General of Police, stated that based on police records, there are 86 armed non-state groups in Nigeria. So that's 86 groups that are guns for hire. A deep dive into that will tell you that more than half of them are being managed by retired and serving people from our security services. I promise I won't break any table this morning. So I'm not going to say more than that. But there are solutions to these things if the government asks. We need to deal with the beneficiaries of insecurity. Number 7, secure our democracy itself. A stolen electoral process gives birth to the ingredients of insecurity. And our politicians need to be aware of that. Because of my time, I'm speeding up. Number 8, reestablish the primacy and authority of the police as the primary institution for internal security, and also reform the police. What do I mean by that? There are nations on earth that do not have armed forces, but there's no nation on earth that does not have police. Nations like Costa Rica, Iceland, Panama, Mauritius, they don't have military, and they are peaceful. But there's no nation without police. Therefore, our police should become more of our priority. I was reading some of the constitutional amendments by the National Assembly. One of them is about military funding should not be made first-line charge. And I'm asking myself, why the military? What happened to the police? The impact of our long military interregnum on our psyche as a people need to be studied. The way we govern, the way we do everything in Nigeria is based on military mindset. Everything is deadline based. Things that other nations will do, and you will even notice they've done it. We do it in a such, everything is dictatorial. It's almost like everybody wants just to make your life difficult. Why? We need to increase our internal security by reforming it. What do I mean by that? Two main things that are usually the cause of problem in a country: the people that come in and the things or goods that come in. The people that come in, that's immigration. Things or goods that come in is what? Customs. In every nation on earth, customs is a major component of its internal security. But guess what? In Nigeria, our customs is under Ministry of Finance. All their targets, read any news that comes from customs, it's always, we raised so billion, we raised so trillion. I'm not dismissing that, but that's only part of the job of customs. What happened to the security component? That will never happen unless the customs is divided. The excise function can remain in finance, but the security component needs to be moved elsewhere. We need our customs to begin to do the security job, which others do all over the world, not just collecting money and taxes. Part of the reform we need, after state police becomes operational, we need to change the way our Inspector General of Police are appointed. Time will not permit me to go through different ways, different countries, appoint their Inspector General of Police. We need to widen the pool. The highest professional policing rank in the world is commissioner. Anything above commissioner rank is political. Therefore, Inspector General of Police does not have to come from the rank and file of the police. We need to widen that, but because of time. Next, introduce independent state security performance ranking. And now, this is my main point before I close. This will produce an annual ranking of all states. Security accountability will suddenly become politically measurable. You hear things like governors saying, when I was governor, we were number, say, 25 in WAEC. By the time I left as governor, we became top 10. As an indicator that he has improved what? Education. But security is never discussed at the state level like that. So governors are not held accountable. So I'm happy to announce today that I'm putting together a team, and we've started work already, of national security experts to commence the production of the first ever independent state security ranking and rating in Nigeria. You will then be able to ask a governor, you are number 20 when you became governor. 4 years later, you are now number 30. You have to explain why you failed in security. Because too long, our state governors have been getting away with murder, literally. When you challenge them about insecurity, they point to the presidency. But a lot of the things that make up insecurity is controlled by the states. So more news will be announced about that. And we are hoping if we can do it before the next election, but the next election is January. That's a bit tight. But don't worry, as you come in as governor after next election, you will know your ranking as you are starting. So that we'll be able to now check a year, 2 years, 3 years later where you are in terms of security. As I close, the most effective governments are often not those with leaders who believe they know everything. They are governments that institutionalize humility. A government does not have to know everything. It only needs to be wise enough to listen widely, test ideas rigorously, change course when evidence suggests you should do so. One of the enduring lessons of history is that nations rarely fail because they lack intelligent people. They often fail because those in authority stops listening to those intelligent people. I pray that our leaders learn from this presentation and understand that the solution to Nigeria's insecurity lies in Nigeria, and our kinetic approach to security needs to stop. We cannot bomb our way into peace. I mean, what do you do when you have a place that has been decimated by Boko Haram, for example? Young people that they have no jobs, they have no prospect. And then the Boko Haram comes back and says, we'll give you 100,000 a month to be part of us. Of course, they join again. So what we need to do is to stop this round robin of our security services dealing with insecurity, and then government socio-economic policies unwittingly creating more pipeline of insecurity. So we are going around in circles. So that circle needs to stop. And I pray that for us to do it, remember that illustration I gave about a terminal patient. We are in that existential crisis at the moment. And our government needs to understand this is the time to embrace bold move, do the unthinkable, throw away the rule book, and let's secure this nation. Thank you. Thank you.
Please, let's